What's up, everybody? We're so grateful that you are here. It is Wednesday, and how amazing that you chose to be here with us. And whether you're watching it later on our YouTube channel, or you're right here in person. I want to give a huge shout out to obviously Austin and Judy and Wade and Jennifer and Melissa, a few of the fierce people that are jumping on. But thank you for being here and showing your commitment to your business, because that's what it takes, right? It really takes showing up and understanding the do's and the don'ts of real estate investing. Today, we're going to be talking about how to raise capital, how to do it ethically, right? So that you don't get in trouble, because, well, we all don't need to go to jail, right? And there's so many ways to do it completely compliant without getting in trouble. So that's the things that we're going to talk about today. And so many people have reached out to me recently going, okay, I have a deal, or I have my grandpa or my grandma or my cousin has money, and they told me that I have, that they would invest with me if I just had a property, or if I just knew how to structure this. More importantly, how to structure it. Because most of us obviously have properties, right? Most of us are like, oh, I got a deal. But then how do you raise the capital? And obviously, we know that Mitch Nelson is probably the king of raising capital. How much money have you raised now in the last 10 years, babe?
Over $100 million.
Absolutely. And so there's probably not a better person, at least in our, sphere of influence, that we should be learning from. And I learned every time I learned, I'm listening. My office is actually right above Mitch's, right? And so I'll overhear his conversation. I'm like, snap, like, okay, he just raised $2 million yesterday. That's amazing, right? Like, and he does this, and it's like it's just clockwork for him, but he's been doing it for a long time. So what I'd like to suggest is that all of us take a second and recognize that we are not very good at anything that we've never tried before. So although you might make a phone call and submit a pro forma, and if you don't know what a pro forma is, that's okay. We're going to talk about that today as well. But you might submit it and you might talk to somebody and be like so excited about it and be like, oh, why wouldn't everyone do this deal? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, sorry, I'm not comfortable or I don't understand. Keep in mind, always in sales, what they're saying no to is just simply that they don't understand, right? They're not saying no to the deal, and they're definitely not saying no to you. It's just easier to say no than it is to say yes if they're confused. So today's goal is to help you recognize how to keep it super stupid simple, right? KISS. We got to keep it really simple so that it's really easy for everyone to understand what that looks like, and then what to say when we're raising capital. Now, with that being said, we have a couple announcements we're going to get into. Tomorrow night, if you are local here in Utah at all, we would love to have you come out to our workshop that we do. Tomorrow, we're going to be emphasizing on a specific strategy, and we are coining the phrase. So if you're seeing it all over kind of our YouTube channel and our Instagram and TikTok, if you're seeing it kind of pop up everywhere and you're like, what is this pulse method? Well, we're going to also talk about that tomorrow night. So, oh, you're going to have to learn, what is this pulse method? Pulse method is going to change the game on how you do raise capital, but also how you start investing for the next 2024 year. And then also tomorrow night, if you're already a member of our group and a part of our community, then we are going to be talking a little bit about that, but it is our mastermind at 7 o'clock. We will be upstairs. So if all of y'all are like, oh, where are we going to be at tomorrow? We're going to be upstairs. We took over the entire area and it's going to be amazing. So come hang out with us. And if you're looking to do or be a part of some type of leadership, we are looking to, build out our leadership team. So if you've thought, oh, it'd be really cool to be in front of the room, or it'd be really great to host some of these calls. I'm thinking of people that are outside of Utah, maybe like Kimberly. Maybe you'd want to host one of our calls. Yeah, girl. It'd be so fun to have you and maybe host some of these calls. And then Saturday, the last announcement before we jump into some other fun stuff, we have at corporate is doing some incredible, like a workshop. What's the workshop about in the morning? It's 9 to
It's your
11.
wealth blueprint.
Ooh, a wealth blueprint. We always love that. Yes, that will be fun. So, if you go into your Renata's calendar, into your back office, you'll be able to log into that. Obviously, it's free. Just log in and you'll be able to have that. And then that same day, so Saturday, we're going to be doing our first of many house tours. And this is a very special one. So, and we will be doing a Facebook Live. So if you're from out of state or you're like, but I can't be there. That's okay. This will be a very unique and special opportunity because we actually own two homes right next door to each other. And what that means is one house is being currently renovated, and then the other house is 100% remodeled and done and just listed. And so you're actually going to be able to walk through the ugly, right? You're going to be able to walk through the nasty property, and then you'll also get to see how amazing the turnout is on the other side. And they're so close to the same type of property that you're going to get a really good feel on how we change up the property, how we chose and why we chose to do certain strategies within the home. It'll be an exciting thing. We're going to run over numbers. We're going to run over how we found it, how we funded it, like we're going to talk a little bit about tonight, obviously. And then more importantly, how did I figure out the ARV? Like, how do you figure out those things? And then what do you know? How do you figure out the template once you know the ARV? So after repair value. Okay. So Saturday is going to be super fun. That'll go from 1 p.m. to 2:30. We'll just be there, kind of an open house style. But if you want to be there for the numbers and really kind of go through everything, then I would be there close to 1 o'clock as you can. And then, guys, gals, this is a fantastic opportunity to do some social media. So if you've been like, oh, kind of tiptoeing in this investor world, it's time for you to own your, right, that you are the CEO of your investment firm, whatever that looks like. And so show up and do some social media, be like, I'm here with Mitch and Maeli, or I'm here with, Allison, or I'm here with whoever, and start doing some social media that way. But we will do a space or a Instagram live. So if you also aren't following us, it's just Mitch and Maeli on Instagram, and you'll be able to find us, and we will go live right at 1 o'clock, and you'll see me running around, and it'll be a super good time. All right. So without further ado, let's figure out how to raise some capital, because we all know that there's millions of dollars available to us. We just don't know how to tap into it. Let's figure out how to tap into it. Mitch, let's figure this out.
Thank you, Maeli. I appreciate that. Guys, let's talk about how to raise some capital today. What do you say? So we have, we've got some exciting stuff for you. Today, I really want to cover not just the mechanics of how to raise capital and how to structure it, but I also want to dive into the conversational side of it. I think a lot of what people are scared about is going out and asking people for money. And this is not something that is like, it's not like asking your mom, to help cover your power bill this month, right? That's a favor. What we're approaching is a business opportunity. And so as we go through this, you're going to kind of see, and we're going to use the example of a fix and flip, but it works very, very similar on rentals. You're going to kind of see how we position this to where it's like, hey, let's go make some money together. Jump in or don't, but I'm going to make money. Come join me, right? So I want to kind of walk through the mechanics of it. I want to walk through the conversational side, and then we're going to open it up to questions and answers. And you guys are going to be able to kind of tear this apart and get your questions answered. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Let me go ahead and do that. Got a little slide deck I want to share with you. Okay, so what does that look like here? All right, can everybody see my screen? Judy or Wade, give me a thumbs up if you can see. It says fix and flip light remodel. All right. Okay, so just a quick little kind of introduction of this. Like we're going to use examples of actual fix and flips that we've done. So just a quick disclaimer, like this isn't a guarantee that you're going to go out and find this deal or make this money. We're just using this as an example to show you how to go out and start having these conversations with people. So this particular property that I'm going to show you is one that I've shared multiple times, and you're going to see there's a reason why I'm sharing this one. The numbers just make it really easy to kind of give you this example. So this one we bought and flipped and sold in 2016. So earlier on in our career, we were starting out with some lighter remodel projects. Today, Maeli and I are doing like down to the studs, luxury properties, $1 million plus ARV. We didn't start out that way, and you don't need to start out that way either. You can do these light remodels, right, which we've done in the past. This one in particular, 2677 West Jordan Meadows Lane. You can see, like, look, the kitchen, like, it's the same cabinets, right? All we did was paint them. We put some handles on them. It's the same tile in the kitchen. It's the same granite. It's the same hardwood floor. We just spruced it up, right? We polished the granite, polished the tile. We refinished the floor. And so here are the numbers on this property. So we purchased this one for $250,000 in 2016. We put $50,000 roughly into fixing it up. Our holding costs, which is the cost that we're going to pay our hard money lender, was about $10,000. Our closing costs, of course, are $25,000. And that really, holding costs is like interest, right? Closing costs are going to be the costs that I pay to my agent and that I pay to my closing company or my title company. So all in, we were $335,000 on this property. We sold it in late 2016 for $380,000. So, our profit on this guy was about 45 grand in 120 days, which is awesome, right? Like, throw in the chat a big caps lock yes if you're like, yes, I want to learn how to make 45 grand in 120 days. Guys, and keep in mind, I was maybe 2 years into my career at this point, and I was doing 3-4 of these at a time. So this is an awesome thing. So we're gonna chat a little bit about this now. Couple of quick things, right, before we dive into really how to structure the money. There's a couple of ways I want to show you how to not go fix and flip a house, right? And the first one is that DIY, the move-in investor, where hey, we can save some money, right? It's always, we can save some money if we move into the property. Well, here's the thing: if you move into a property, you're moving into like a construction project, right? You're moving your entire family in. I don't think they're going to love that, And if you want a high velocity, think about this. You're going to have to move every 4 months if you're going to actually keep this at a velocity where it's making sense to, turn these over and eventually quit your job. And the problem with this is you lose a lot of time freedom because you're doing the work yourself, right? We need to be focused on the number one thing that increases our net worth, and that is asset acquisition. So if we're diluting that time, the 24 hours that we have in a day, if we're diluting that with being the framer, being the sheetrock guy, being the painter and the cabinet guy and the finish work guy, we're diluting the amount of time that we can actually spend on the only thing that increases our net worth, and that is buying a property. So the more often we can buy property, the more often we raise our individual worth, right? Our individual wealth. So we don't want to be the moving guy, right? If we move into every property we do, we can only do one at a time. We can't stack them deep, right? We don't want to be the debt guy, obviously. We don't want to be the debt investor because, that person limits their exit strategies. And there have been times in my career where I have had to use exit strategies on properties, where I've had to convert what I thought was going to be a fix and flip. I've had to convert it into a rental, hold on to it for a while. The problem with the debt guy, if you structure your fix and flips as debt, you've got a serious problem because you lose a lot of those exit strategies. So what most people do is they go out and they find a hard money lender, and usually hard money lenders give us a 12% loan and a term of at about 6 months. So the problem with that, you may be looking at this saying, yeah, but Mitch, you told us we could do it in 4 months. What's the big deal here? Well, the problem is that we structured it all in debt. Because if you look historically at properties, and I told you there was a reason why I picked this property. I've got some very particular data on this property, right? I sold this property. I bought it and sold it in 2016, but it had also been sold in 2011, and before that, it had been sold in 2007. So think about those dates, right? 2007, right before the 2008 collapse. And then 2011, that's like when the real estate market was at its lowest, right? So what did this property sell for in 2007? Well, it actually sold for $380,000. That's what I sold it for 9 years later after a rehab. That's how long it took for the market to bounce back from the 2008 crisis, right? But from 2007, it sold again in 2011. This property sold for $280,000 in 2011. So it got a $100,000 haircut, right? So this is the problem. There are a few things that we can control as real estate investors. We can control, who we partner with. We can control which properties we buy and which properties we don't buy. But we cannot control what happens to the market. And I get people asking me, hey, will there be another like 2008 type event? Absolutely, there will be. And then they say, well, when will it happen? I have no idea. I've been doing this for 10 years. I have no idea. I know people who have been doing this for 40 years. They have no idea. None of us have a crystal ball. We have to prepare each and every property as if 2008 is around the corner, right? And the problem with the debt investor, the person who goes out and finds that hard money lender and structures all of the money they need as debt, it's a big problem. Here's why. Because if you buy this house, let's say today you buy this house, you put the money into fixing it up. These are the numbers here. And 2 months in, it takes you 4 months to finish it. 2 months in, the market changes. That next 2008 type market collapse happens, and this property is only worth 280. Well, we lose a bunch of options. We can't sell it because we borrowed 300,000 against it, and it's only worth 280. And if we sell it, we owe $35,000 in fees to our agents and our title company and our hard money lender, etc. So we would lose $55,000 if we sold this property. We can't rent it out because at the 6 month mark, our hard money lender would just foreclose on us. So that's not an option. We can't refinance it into a long-term mortgage to get that hard money lender out because we owe more. We would have to borrow $300,000 against it, or actually add the interest into that. We'd have to borrow $310,000 against it, and it's only worth 280. No bank would lend on that, right? So if we structure the money wrong, we can actually back ourselves into a corner to where we have no exit strategies if the market changes, right? So I want to talk to you today about how the educated investors do it, right? And for those of you who are our students, you're going through these classes now to learn how to do this stuff. But I want to simplify it for you today and kind of give you a high-level overview. So Maeli and I have flipped over 250 properties. On every one of those 250 plus properties, we have used the debt equity blend. Now, the debt equity blend is a very particular ratio to it, right? Whatever the amount you need to raise up front is, in this case, it's $300,000. You raise 2/3 in debt. We can even use that same hard money lender, right? The 12% 6 month guy. So that $200,000 we're going to borrow as debt versus, the debt guy who raised all $300,000 against the property. We're only going to raise $200,000. The other $100,000 we are going to raise in equity. Now, we're going to talk a lot about equity partnerships today because this is a fantastic way to raise money for real estate that creates a low risk for you and a low risk for your partners, right? Now, I do know people who raise 100% of their deals in equity. I'm also not a big fan of that because debt tends to be cheaper than equity. And if you use this ratio at the debt equity blend, rather than raising $300,000 in equity, you could go do 3 properties just like this with $300,000 in equity and use debt to fill the other portion, right? And it still keeps us safe. So if we need another $100,000, where are we going to find that? Well, here's how Maeli and I have structured it in the past. So we start a business. We start an LLC, and the business owns this deal. So I don't own the deal. The business owns the deal. And we give ourselves 50% ownership of that LLC. So Maeli and I own 50%. And we take the other 50% and we go out and we find an equity partner, right? We find that person who can bring $100,000 to the table in exchange for 50% of this deal. It doesn't have to be 50%. Actually, a lot of times, for the sake of, explaining this, 50-50 makes it easy math. But a lot of times, Maeli and I will do a percentage based off of the total raise. So, some equity partners are getting 30% or some are getting 20 or whatever, whatever amount they're bringing to the table. But for the sake of explaining this, we'll use the numbers 50-50. So, we go out and we find those friends, who just have like $100,000 laying around because that's what we need. We all have friends like that, right? That have just $100,000, like, on top of the fridge in a jar. Look, when I started doing this, all my friends were making what I made. I worked a job at the Apple store making $40,000 a year. Everybody I knew was making $40,000 a year, right? That's who I hung out with. So I didn't know anybody that had $100,000 that I could just call and be like, hey, bring your jar. We're buying a house today. So here's the thing. By getting educated and by learning from practitioner instructors, from people who are actually out doing this stuff in the real world, I was taught something very, very interesting and really life-changing. I was taught that there's $27 trillion in retirement accounts in this country, and there's only like 330,000 people who live, 330 million people who live here, right? So if you do the math, there's a lot of people with a lot of money in their retirement accounts, right? Maybe some of you are on this call. Now, I'm not raising your funds. This is just educational purposes only. But think about it. There's a lot of people with, six, some even seven figures in their retirement accounts. You can access that money. And there's two questions that I was taught in that education, in the self-directed IRA class taught by Matt Sorensen. He taught me two questions that allowed me to raise over $100 million to go do fix and flips like this one. Question number one is, did you know that you can use your retirement account to invest in real estate? That's the first conversation I have with people. And we're going to get into the conversational side later. Like, how do we bring this up with people? We're going to talk about that in just a second. This is the mechanical side. But question number two is, if I could show you how you could double or triple your current rate of return backed by real estate, would you partner with me on my next deal? Now think about that question for a second. If you could double or triple your current rate of return backed by real estate, would you partner with me on my next deal? Double or triple? Well, most people with their 401ks and IRAs, they have their 401ks managed by some, two-name firm out there, the Merrill Lynch's of the world, whoever, and they are, they're usually indexed in mutual funds. Now, mutual funds can range from 5 to 10%. We'll call it 7%. Just split the difference, right? Let's say a mutual fund averages 7% ROI per year in your retirement account. Now, if someone came up to you, even if they're a stranger, and they're like, hey, what if I could show you a way that you could double or triple your current rate of return? Aren't you going to listen to what they have to say next? You're not going to be like, nah. I like not making double or triple, right? Like, you're gonna hear them out at least, right? So here's the thing, guys. This is exactly like what I'm showing you. I've got it set up into a nice PowerPoint presentation, but sometimes this is written on the back of a napkin. And whatever my deals are, or whatever the numbers on my deal is, this is how I lay it out, right? This could be scratched on the back of a Starbucks napkin. It doesn't matter. But I always line out okay, I got this deal I'm looking at. Here's the purchase price, $250,000. Here's the remodel cost. We're going to put 50 grand into this thing, and here are the things we're going to do to it with that 50 grand. We're going to go get a hard money lender for 200,000 of this, and our interest on that over the course of 4 months, which is how long we're going to hold this property, is going to be about 10 grand. And then when we close on it, we're going to hire an agent. They're going to do their thing, aces in their places. We'll hire a professional. But we got to pay them a commission. We got to pay the title company and closing costs. That's going to be about 25 grand. So all in, we're going to be 335,000 on this deal. But we're going to be able to sell it based on these comps, and you show them, right? Based on these comps, we're going to be able to sell this thing for 380. That means we're going to make $45,000. And because we'd be 50-50 partners in this deal, that means you're going to make $22,500, and your equity partner's retirement account is going to make $22,500. Now there's a distinction here. A lot of people think you're asking them to pull their money outside of their retirement account, and you've got, that's a taxable event, and they've got fees, and they've got all those things. That's not what we're asking them to do, right? What does a retirement account do? A retirement account invests money. It invests the money inside the retirement account, right? And usually in the stock market, in mutual funds. Well, isn't real estate an investment? Can't they go invest that? They absolutely can. They can go invest that money in real estate, right? So why doesn't the retirement account just use the real estate as an investment? They will buy the other 50% of this LLC, own half of the deal, and at the end of the deal, they get half the profit. So they put 100 grand in, not the person, but the retirement account puts 100 grand in. And at the end of the deal, when we sell the deal, we dissolve the LLC, they get their 100 grand back, plus a check for $22,500. Now, I picked this deal because it's easy math, right? On 100 grand, $22,500, that's 22.5% annualized rate of return. That is really good, right? That second question, what if I could double or triple your current rate of return? If they're getting 7% in a mutual fund, triple 7% is 21%. We've just beat that. And here's the coolest thing. You'll notice that's in the actual column, right? And again, this is all either written out on a napkin, or I've got it in a nice printout, or maybe I've got my slideshow, right? This is exactly what I'm showing them as I'm having this conversation with them. You're projected to make $22,500 on this deal. That's 22.5%. And we're going to do this in 4 months. That's why it's an actual rate of return. When we're talking about 7% rate of return on mutual funds, that's in 12 months. So if we actually annualize this, you're going to make 67.5%. That's crazy. Now, they may ask you, right? They may be like, well, what happens? Well, let's talk about the risks, right? What happens if like the market changes? What happens if 2008 happens again, right? And you could be like, oh, I got this one, right? Like here's like this property, it sold in 2011, like it had lost, it sold in 2007, it sold in 2011. It had lost 100 grand in that span of time because of the 2008 crisis. If that were to happen again, we're okay. Because here's the thing, we've got all of those exit strategies that didn't work for the debt investor, they now work for us. Because my equity partner is actually a partner in this LLC, if our strategy has to change, if we plan on doing a flip, but if that doesn't work when it comes time to sell it and we have to turn it into a rental, we're now partners on a rental. All we have to get rid of is this debt, right? So now we can take this property down to the bank where the debt investor couldn't do that before. We can now take this property down to the bank, and our value is still higher than what that debt balance is. So we could refinance this out into a long-term mortgage. Now we just have little tiny baby payments along the way, right? Where we're paying a monthly mortgage payment on a 30-year mortgage. When we have long-term financing, guys, we can throw tenants in there. We can rent this thing out, right? And think about this. We have a mortgage that's originated at $200,000. So our payment's based on $200,000. The property's worth $280,000, so the rent will be based on the value of $280,000. There's going to be some cash flow there, right? And we're going to be able to rent this thing out and cash flow every single month. Now, 2008's happening again. What happened to mutual funds in 2008? They tanked and people lost money in their 401ks, right? But in this particular deal, you're making money through this process. Every single month, we're splitting the cash flow 50-50 for as long as it takes for that value to come back. Once that value hits 380 again, we sell the property. And worst case scenario, it takes us a little longer, but when we sell the property for 380, I make 22.5 and my equity partner's retirement account makes 22.5. So worst case scenario, yes, they're in the property longer than expected, but they're making cash flow along the way. Worst case scenario, they make more money. So as long as we structure things correctly, and this is why education and knowledge are so important, as long as we structure things correctly, it mitigates risk. Knowledge mitigates risk in real estate, right? So the mechanics of this are important. We have to set this up correctly. Now, being an equity partner is fantastic. I mean, look at the difference that our equity partners make between normally investing in like mutual funds versus throwing their money into a deal like this. They get a huge benefit, right? And that's awesome. But what's even cooler is getting to the point where you can manage these projects and be the one that's raising the capital. Because if we look at what the position that Maeli and I had in this deal, Maeli and I put $0 into this deal, but we also got a check for $22,500. Right? So our rate of return, I feel like a third grader when I say this, we made infinity% on this deal, right? Our rate of return is infinite because we put $0 in. Now, we did put, however, a much more valuable currency, and we put knowledge. We were the ones that knew how to put this deal together. We found it, we structured it, we did it in a way that was safe for everybody so that they wouldn't lose, there was very little chance that they would lose money. And because of that, that knowledge is actually a more valuable currency. As you can see from the rates of return here, that knowledge is actually a much more valuable currency than the actual money is. Because we put less money in, but we made a higher rate of return. And I will tell you this, the smartest person in the deal always makes the highest rate of return. The smartest person in the deal always makes the highest rate of return. And that's universally true. So we want to be the educated investor, right? We want to be the one putting these deals together. That's the best position to be in. Is it a good thing to be an equity partner? Yeah, you're going to make a high rate of return. But is it a better thing to be the person that's bringing the knowledge to the table and structuring the deal? Yes, it is, right? And so these are the mechanics. This is why we structure things the way we do, is so that we can keep the money safe. We can do this at infinite scalability. It's not dependent on what Maeli and I have in our checking account. It's not dependent on my credit score, right? This is just dependent simply on the skills that I have taken the time to study and learn. And if we structure it right, we can help keep everyone safe in the process, keeping the exit strategies open and available to us so that we can pivot on a moment's notice if needed. Now, before we move on to, I want to dive deeper into like the conversational side of this. Like, where do we find these people? What are the questions that we ask them? How do we start this conversation? How do we even get on that topic with them in the first place? Right? We're going to dive into that in a second, but I want to pause here and I want to open it up to questions. So if any of you have any questions about how this process works, how it's all structured, like, come off of mute right now. Let's answer these questions. So the time is yours. We're going to take a little question pause. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat now. See, Ryan asks, in the Q&A, I wanted to know how to factor in tenants, maintenance, and paying for repairs on the property and property management. Yeah, so that's a good question, Ryan. So whenever Maeli and I are analyzing a fix and flip deal, we also analyze it for our exit strategies as well. Actually, there's a great example of a deal that we passed up on not too long ago. We would have made like $200,000 on it as a flip. It was at the top of the mountain. It was a glass house, so had glass all the way around. We could have done some really cool things to this house. However, it wouldn't have worked as a long-term rental. The rents were too low, right? The interest rates were too high at the time. The rents were too low. And it wouldn't have worked as a short-term rental because it was in an area that didn't allow short-term rentals. So we didn't have any exit strategies on this deal. We passed on a $200,000 profit margin fix and flip because we didn't have exit strategies. We wouldn't have been keeping ourselves and our equity partners safe. So as we're analyzing these deals as flips, we're also analyzing them as rentals, short-term rentals, any of the other exit strategies you have. And of course, as we're analyzing a rental, just like we do, when we're taking into account our costs on a flip, things like rehab, holding costs, closing costs, we're also taking into account our costs when we're analyzing it as a rental, which is things like property management, maintenance, and other things. So if it doesn't work for two or more of our exit strategies, then it's not a deal, right? We've got to keep ourselves safe. We always need more than one exit strategy. So that's a great question. Looks like Mary has her question, or has a question, has her hand raised. Mary, if you want to come off mute, feel free to ask your question.
So my question is, how do we structure these partners?
What's up, Mary? How are you?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I cannot
Hello?
hear you. Let's see. Is that on my end?
I can. So that's a problem. I can.
Maeli, can you hear Mary?
Yeah, I totally can.
I can't
We
hear
can hear
Maeli either. Did I lose
Hi,
audio
Mary.
here?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, there she is. What's up, Mary?
Hi. So my question is, how do I structure these partners together in a deal? I kind of logged in late, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out, so if I have someone that has cash and money, how do I structure them into a contract with me? Do I just go with them to title and they bring their money, or
Yeah, that's a good
how
question.
does that
So there's a
physically work?
few ways that you can do it. In this example, I used an LLC. However, I will say I've become a big fan of joint venture agreements. So think of it this way, and kind of working off of the structure we have here on the screen. That equity partner you could structure in a couple of ways. Joint venture agreement, LLC, both work in this debt equity blend, right? However, to use an analogy, a joint venture agreement is more like dating, and an LLC is more like marriage, right? So if this is your first time working with this partner, and you're not entirely sure that you're going to want to work with them again on another deal in the future, a joint venture agreement might be the way to do that. And the way that I structure that is I put that joint venture agreement, I had an attorney, and you're always going to want to consult your attorney. And I'm not an attorney. So consult an attorney while doing this, but here's how I do it. I had an attorney write up a joint venture agreement that outlines like, here's my responsibilities, here's your responsibilities. You're going to move that money over, that kind of thing. So we put that joint venture agreement in place, and then we structured that on title by filing what's called a notice of interest. So we protect our partner's interest by putting a notice of interest on title, with that joint venture agreement attached to it, and then they just wire it to title, the day before closing, and then the title company keeps that in escrow, and then we bring our hard money lenders in. That money's applied to down payment, and whatever's left over, then the title company will distribute to us as we can use that for the construction costs and whatnot. So that's usually how I structure it. If you have a partner that like, hey, this dude, he's going to be in on every deal I ever do from here, to the end of my career, then you probably want an LLC. It'll be, that way the money doesn't have to go back to the person each time. It can just go back into the LLC, and it's ready for you to buy that next deal. So if it's your first go around with a partner and you're not 100% sure, like even if you're 99% sure, I'd still use a joint venture agreement the first and second time around. And until you do 3 or 4 deals with that person, like, let's, wait to set up the LLC. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. Because I currently have some potential partners that with cash, and so I just didn't know what the next step after finding someone that has cash.
Yeah, that's it. Now it's
And how
time
to
to
set it up.
now it's time to structure the deal, and I would make sure that you are structuring the money at least 2/3 in debt and 1/3 in equity. And guys, if you're gonna fudge that ratio at all, never go above 2/3 of your upfront cost in debt. And of course, when we're talking about upfront costs, we're talking about the purchase price plus the rehab. If you're worried about where the market's going, or if you're worried about the market now, or if you're like, hey, I don't know, there's some indicators that, hey, this, the market may change, we may have to turn this into a rental property, and you want to hedge a little bit against that, then structure a little bit more on the equity side and a little less on the debt side. But I would never go over that 2/3 mark as you're structuring that debt. So, I think the debt equity blend takes advantage of the fact that debt's cheap. Now, here's the thing. Debt is riskiest for the investor and least risky for the lender. It's riskier for the borrower and least risky for the lender. Here's why. No matter what, in a debt relationship, you owe that money back plus interest. Well, hey, COVID hit. I don't care. You owe me that money back plus interest. Well, hey, I've been having a hard time and I got a divorce and my family's going to, my family's really struggling. I don't care. You owe me that money back plus interest, right? An asteroid hit the Earth and, 2/3 of the people, the Earth's population got wiped out. I don't care. You owe me that money plus interest. That's a debt relationship. It's risky. And if you can't perform on that, they're just going to come take the house, right? But because they're transferring all of the risk to the borrower, it tends to be a little cheaper. I mean, look at this. I'm giving away 22% of the profit to the equity partner here, right? But it's so that I can keep myself safe because they're taking on some of that risk. Whereas hey, we may need to turn this into a rental, right? Whereas the debt guy, he's like, you got 6 months. You got to either pay me principal and interest or I'm taking the house, right? So because that risk all sits squarely on my shoulders and my equity partner's shoulders, I can get a cheaper interest rate on that. So in comparison here, the debt's actually fairly cheap, right? So equity is a little more expensive, but it's going to keep us in business longer, right? So we're going to share some of that risk of, hey, we may have to turn this into a rental for a little while, and I'm going to need you to keep your position so that we have some equity so that we can refinance if we need to, right? So because of that, we want to keep that debt ratio, because it's riskier, we want to keep that debt ratio at 2/3 or below. So, but again, I'm not a big fan of raising 100% equity. Like there's, if I had someone who had 300 grand that's like, hey, I'll just give you the cash, let's go do this deal. First off, I'd have to give them way more than half of the deal if they're bringing all the money to the table, right? Which diminishes my return. And secondly, I lost my train of thought here. Secondly, I could use that 300 grand to go do 3 deals identical to this one if I just use the debt equity blend, right? So there's advantages to structuring both in a single deal, debt and equity. Great question, Mary. All right. Anybody else have any questions on the mechanics of this? Let's see. Scott says, for a fix and flip, other than long-term and short-term rentals, are there any other exit strategies? You have your entire library of any of the AIT courses that could be potential exit strategies, right? You could turn this into intensive behavioral homes. You could turn this into a midterm rental. Anything you can do with a house is an exit strategy. So, it really comes down to what are the areas that you want to play in? Because, chances are, as you do more and more deals, you're going to have a higher and higher chance that you're going to have 1 or 2 of them that you actually have to convert, right? So now, percentages are low. I've done 250 deals and I've had to convert 8 of them in my career. So that's like a 3%, 2.5%, conversion ratio, which means I'm 97.5% of the time successful in my plan A. And that's simply because I'm an educated investor. But there is the possibility and the probability that eventually you're going to have to convert one of these things. So you just pick those exit strategies that you're comfortable with and that you'll want to do. And as long as the numbers work out, then that's part of the deal. But I would have at least 2 of them, right? Because, for example, what happens if you had a deal that you bought in like early 2022 and then all of a sudden the interest rates went up and you're like, whoa, I was looking at like 4% interest rates when I calculated these numbers, not 8% interest rates, right? Now all of a sudden one of your exit strategies, long-term rentals, it doesn't work anymore, right? So you have to have that backup plan to be able to execute that, and you need to make sure that works before you ever buy the deal. So I would have at least 2, if not more, backup strategies to be able to go and do that. But really, any cash flow strategy, sober living, like I said, intensive behavior, assisted living for elderly people. There's hospice homes. The list goes on and on and on. But yeah, your imagination is the limit, right? So, good question. I love that. Any other questions before we move on to the conversational side of this? All right. Well, let's talk conversational. Okay. So here's the thing. As you are going out and looking for equity partners, the biggest question I get, and guys, when I was like considering getting started as a real estate investor, like one of the biggest things that scared me was who in their right mind is going to give me money, like $40,000 a year average American Apple Store sales guy, right? Like who's going to give me money to go do real estate deals? And that was my big fear. But as you can show, and we walk through the mechanics of that, guys, what I said to you, and remember, this is being recorded and going to be, available to you on our YouTube channel under the live tab. So you can go back and review it and watch it. But everything that I showed you and everything that I said, that is exactly my script for how I talk to equity partners. Now, where do I find these equity partners? Everywhere. 3-foot rule, guys. If they come within 3 foot of your personal bubble while you're conscious, you have a conversation with them about real estate investing, right? So here's the thing. Couple little key tips, right? I know some of you are just getting started and you've got the full-time gig during the day and real estate investing is a part-time hobby for you at night. Stop introducing yourself as what you do during the day. Stop saying, hi, my name's Bob and I'm an electrician, right? Hi, my name's Gary and I work at Walmart. Hi, my name's Steve and I'm a plumber. Like, stop doing that. When you introduce yourself to new people, hi, my name's Mitch. I'm a real estate investor. Hi, my name's Kimberly. I'm a real estate investor. Hi, my name's Wade. I'm a real estate investor, right? When you bring up the words real estate investing, people want to know and they're going to have questions for you. There's your in. Right? So whenever you introduce yourself, and look, I'll even bring it up with the gas station. I don't care. Anybody and everybody, I don't know what their situation is, right? I'm not going to judge a book by its cover. Like whoever they are, like I'm going to ask them, hey, have you ever thought about real estate investing? Well, yeah, actually, I've thought a lot about it. I've been thinking about it for years. My wife and I have talked about it. My husband and I have talked about it. Great. Well, I just found this deal in just down the street, a couple towns over, and I'm looking for some people to join up with me. You don't happen to have a 401k or an IRA, do you? Well, yeah, I do, but why do you ask? Well, two questions. Number one, did you know that you can use your 401k or IRA to invest in real estate? Number two, if I could show you I could double or triple your current rate of return backed by real estate, would you partner with me on my next deal? Wait, what? Tell me what you're talking about. And then I jump into my presentation, everything I just showed you, right? Here's the purchase. Here's the deal. This is the address. Here's the purchase price. Here's the rehab costs. Here's what we're going to spend in holding costs. Here's what we're going to spend on closing costs. Here's our all-in number. Here's what we'll sell it for. That means the difference is our profit, and we'll split that. If you're willing to self-direct your 401k and your IRA, and let's dive in and let's go do this thing, right? So have those conversations with everybody. Mary has a question, and then I'm going to share a story. Mary?
Yes, quick question. So on the topic of IRAs, I've watched the whole section of IRAs, but will it be the same for structuring a partnership with an IRA with someone else as the joint venture contract that you're talking about?
I use the same contract. So here's the thing,
Okay.
Matt. So in the self-directed IRA class, Matt Sorensen talks about, not when you self-direct your IRA or your 401k, your retirement plan in general, you need a custodian. So you're moving it away from the Merrill Lynch, from the Morgan Stanley, from the any of the two name firms. You're moving it away from those people. It needs a home somewhere, and legally it can't. Your home can't be its home, right? So you need a custodian. And so we find a custodian. Just Google it, right? In fact, Matt Sorensen, the teacher of the self-directed retirement account class, he is
They have a custodian.
custodian. Yeah, he is a custodian. So he can be the custodian. So we fill out the forms that Matt gives us. We send them off to the whoever is holding our 401k IRA now. They release it to him, which they have to because you're in control of it, right? So now he's the custodian. But in addition to that, if we're going to use a joint venture agreement, they have to form what's called an IRA LLC if it's an IRA, or a 401k LLC if it's a 401k. That is simply an LLC that your retirement account owns. But the cool thing about that is it gives you checkbook control. So now, with that LLC, my LLC and their IRA LLC or 401k LLC are now the partners in the deal. And they're the two parties in the joint venture agreement, right? And so I send with my LLC being the first party and their LLC being the second party, I now send that joint venture agreement over to the custodian. The custodian reads through it, approves it, signs it, and now they can transfer the money to the title company.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, because
Okay.
kind of the same thing. I have everything in the custodian of the IRA. I just wasn't sure how to put it together with
Yeah.
cash
So
and
if you're
other
going
people.
to use a joint venture agreement, they have to have an IRA LLC or a 401k LLC. And that can be set up
Okay.
by the custodian or it can be set up by any attorney. So if the custodian's going to take, which happens a lot, the custodian's going to take 5 weeks to do it, call your attorney. He can do it in 2 days, right?
Okay.
So, but it has to be a 401k LLC if it's a 401k or an IRA LLC if it's an IRA. A normal LLC will not do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And that represents their side of it, right? Okay. Good question. All right. So Jennifer Wright says, I'm going to go see 2 properties for my hospice patient sister after introducing herself to me as a real estate investor and mortgage broker as well during our conversation. It works. It does. It works. Introduce yourself as a real estate investor, and people are like, "What? What do you do?" I've always wanted to do that, right? And that's like, great news. You can do it. Let's go do it together, right? It is like the best icebreaker and segue into that conversation is just introduce yourself. In fact, a lot of you, I mean, once I know you, I don't do this anymore. But when we first started getting to know each other, like if I call you, I say, this is Mitch Nelson, real estate investor. If I text you for the first time, it says, this is Mitch Nelson, real estate investor, right? It's like part of my name, right? I should just hyphenate my last name. Mitch Nelson hyphen real estate investor. I'll hyphenate, right? It's just part of who you are now. It's your identity because that sparks the conversation. So it's a big part of it. So
I'll chime in too. You
yeah,
have to do this for your social media as well. If you do not currently already have your name, like I'm a wife, I'm a mother, a mother of two beautiful children, I'm whatever, I am a real estate investor. Like people need to know who you are. So
yep.
please do not forget that. And on your email signature, same thing. You'd be surprised that it'll spark a conversation of, wait, I didn't know you were an investor. Bam, you just got a lead.
Guys, branding is so important and you have to be shameless in your branding. In fact, I'm going to pick on somebody right now because I think this is so cool. Jennifer, I'm going to pick on you. Like, hang on. I'm going to add your spotlight here. So check out Jennifer's background. Like, is this not the most bad A thing you've ever seen, right? Like, she's got her Zoom background rather than having palm trees or like the library, you know, like most of us put in our background. She's branding. And this is dope. Like now all of you have her phone number if you need a mortgage and you have her email address and you like this is what I'm talking about. We have to constantly be branding ourselves because as this comes up in conversation, like they need to know who you are and what you do. And this is the only way that you're going to be able to take massive enough action to be able to go out and do what you're trying to accomplish here. And in a lot of our cases, it is we need to raise money so we can go buy some freaking real estate, right? So, Jennifer, thanks for letting me pick on you. I appreciate it.
Hold on, we have to still pick on
but
Jennifer.
You are doing a great job. So,
Guess
well done.
Guess what? Jennifer's also going to be an author in our new book, Creating Her Empire.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
So talk about branding. She just leveled up her game. Like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm so happy to be an author with you. Like, I'm so excited. Okay, just loves.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, so just start like branding takes over your world, right? And so we need to start thinking about branding as we're doing this because that is how the conversation starts. And what I mean by branding takes over your world is it's conversational. It's on your car, it's on your business cards, it's on your jacket, it's on your everything. Like branding it's on your social media. If your LinkedIn, Twitter account, Facebook page, Instagram account, TikTok account, if it doesn't say real estate investor after your name, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong, right? Like that. These conversations start because you're making people aware that this is what you do. And that is how you start the conversation. Now, who do I talk to? I talk to everybody. Doesn't matter. Don't judge a book by its cover. If I'm talking, like I said, I talk to gas station attendants about it. I talk to, the checkout clerk at the grocery store. I'm talking to literally anybody and everybody that comes within 3 feet of my personal space while I'm conscious during the day. Right. And so make sure that you're opening your mouth and you're talking about it. And the easiest way to do it, especially guys, it's easy when you're having a conversation. If you're shaking somebody's hand and they're telling you their name and what they do, tell them your name and what you do. But make sure that what you do is real estate investor. That's how you start that conversation. And it's as simple as working into those. So introduction, tell them what you do. They're going to be intrigued. Everybody and their dog wants to invest in real estate. I don't care, I don't care what your preconceptions are. Everybody does. And so they're going to have questions. There's going to be intrigue. When they have questions, you can go ahead and answer those questions. Keep the answers to their questions short because you got 2 questions you need to ask them. Did you know that you can use your retirement account and invest in real estate? And if I were to show you how to double or triple your current rate of return backed by real estate, would you partner with me on my next deal? Those 2 questions will change your life. They've brought over $100 million worth of capital into my life in the last decade. And I've only been able to do the number of deals I've been able to do because I have equity partners in my life who trust me and who work with me, right? And that's how it starts. So just have these conversations on a daily basis and set a goal for yourself. Like we should be like setting goals and like I'm going to talk to 3 people today. I'm going to talk to 3 people every day about, I'm going to tell them that I'm a real estate investor. I'm going to start this conversation. In fact, you guys should just go out and test this. You learned something new today. Go out and try me. right? Just walk up to a stranger, start talking to them, ask them their name, ask them what they do. They will probably, after they introduce themselves, they will probably reciprocate because that's etiquette, right? A social contract, they're going to ask you your name and what you do. There's an easy way to break the ice. Ask them who they are and what they do. If they don't reciprocate it right away, just start bombarding them with questions about them. And after a while, after it starts to feel awkward, shut up. Just don't say anything. Just look at each other awkwardly in silence, right? And what are they going to do to break that awkward silence? You don't break it. You embrace the awkward silence, right? Embrace that awkwardness. What are they going to do? They're going to break the silence and they're going to start asking questions about you. And those questions are all geared towards and pointed towards, I'm a real estate investor. When we start that conversation, we have those two questions. We show them the deal that we're working on. Now, what do I need in order to have these conversations? I need a deal I'm working on. I need leads, right? So that's a whole other thing, and we talk about that often, the deal spotter system. You need to know how to start creating that pipeline for yourself. And that's exactly what our education does, is it teaches you how to create that pipeline for yourself to where those leads just start showing up for you on a weekly basis. So let me explain why for a second. And think about if you're the equity partner, the potential equity partner that I'm approaching, and I come in, just nail the intro, right? I'm like, I'm a real estate investor. Like, what if I could do double or triple your current rate of return? You're like, ooh, this guy's sharp, right? And you're like, all right, what you working on? Like, what's the deal? Oh, I don't have a deal yet. I'm just wondering if I could have your money. Like, can you just give me your money? And when we find a deal, I'll use it. What happens to the trust level at that point? Right? Like, I'm just going to hang on to your money for a while. And then, maybe one day I'll find a deal. You got to have deals you're working on. And so fill up that pipeline. Now, here's the cool thing. What happens if we fill our pipeline, but we don't have deal, or we don't, what happens if we fill up our pipeline, but we don't have money lined up yet? Because it's kind of two pipelines we're working on, right? We're kind of spinning two plates. We're filling the deal pipeline. We're filling the money lender pipeline. And when two hit at the same time, it's like perfect. There's a spark between them, right? We can connect those and we can go do a deal. But sometimes those cycles don't line up perfectly. So what happens if we're building our deal pipeline and we got deals, but we don't have money partners yet, right? Wholesale. If you have a deal, you have analyzed the numbers, it's a sweet deal, you've put it under contract, and you're just looking for that money partner, but you haven't quite found him yet, no problem, wholesale it off. Well, I'm a real estate agent, and my broker said I can't wholesale. Great, turn it into a listing. Say, hey, look, I can't actually perform on this deal, but you know what? I'm actually going to find you more money than what I offered you. I'll turn it into a listing. Perfect, right? So I don't care if you're an agent or not, either wholesale it or list it, I don't care. You just got yourself some money. Right? And what happens is we're spinning this plate and we're wholesaling and we're making it happen, filling the pipeline. Now we're learning how to have conversations with people, and it's awkward at first, but that's okay. We work through the awkward. We practice it until we're perfect at it, right? And all of a sudden they line up and boom, one happens. There's our first deal. Right? So we've got to work both sides of it. So be practicing on both sides. You got to learn how to get good at talking to sellers. You got to learn how to get good at talking to potential equity partners. And those are conversations you have all the time. And sometimes people I'm like having the equity partner conversation with are like, yeah, dude, I don't have any money. I have zero 401ks, nothing in savings. I'm upside down cash flow every month. In fact, I'm so bad off that I'm about to lose my house. Really? I can help you. I will buy it, right? And now that guy jumps over and he's part of your deal flow. So it all feeds itself, right? I mean, like, for example, Maeli and I have one system that we run. And it's exactly what I just described. And we feed our deal flow off of it. We feed our equity partner flow off of it. We feed our education and training company off of it. And we feed Maeli's real estate agent business off of it. One funnel. Because all of the businesses we run are in the same vertical. So it doesn't matter. We just open our mouths. And that's it. That's the key. Just open your mouth. So that's the conversational side of it. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but guys, I told you that was the biggest, scariest thing when I first started. I'm like, who's going to give me money? It happened, and it happened fast. And because I learned just the structure of how to talk to people about it, which is what I just shared with you tonight, I got really good at it really fast. And now it's my favorite part. My favorite part of every deal is reaching out to the equity partners and putting the deal together, right? And creating those partnerships and being able to go out and make money together. And it's also what I consider kind of the easiest part. I mean, it's not easy, but it's like the easiest part compared to the other parts of doing a deal, right? So don't get overwhelmed by it. It's easy. Just open your mouth. You are going to suck at it at first, right? You're going to be awkward and you're going to forget what to say, and that's okay. You're going to have to burn leads just like all of us do. You're going to have to get past the awkward phase. So the only way to do that is by practicing. Knowing you're going to burn those leads. It's practice. Be willing to write those guys off because you have to get to the other side of it in order to get confident and remember your lines and remember the script and remember the structure. So just start practicing and just, be awkward until you're not. That's just fine. Okay. All right. So we're actually past the top of the hour here. I'll open it up for some short Q&A and then we'll wrap this thing up. Guys, what questions do you have around structure or conversation or how to generate leads or how to balance all of that? Like what questions do you guys have?
I guess the one thing that I've had experience. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
One thing I've had experience with in approaching people is they want to know like the real data and like statistics, because I think I talk to, the certain kind of drive people, or they're very cranial and they're statisticians, which is funny because that's not who I am. And so creating that conversation so that it speaks to their conversation type is important. So how would you address that when I'm not the expert like you?
Well, I mean, to that comment, I haven't always been the expert. I earned that spot, right, by just having that conversation over. I started out being awkward just like everyone else. And all of us have to do the same thing. We got to earn that spot. But yeah, so it's funny you bring up drive. Are you ever not a student, Jennifer? Yeah, you are. Okay. Yeah. So you've gone through the drive. You've gone through the drive classes. So it's funny you bring up
for a long time. How dare you?
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Just
you worked with so many people in man communities was forever ago.
Yeah,
so
you were in the man communities days. I love
Craig,
that. That's awesome. I love that. Yep, totally. So yeah, it's funny you bring up drive because I used to actually, every conversation I would have, if it got like to where I'm like, oh, this is a serious conversation, I'd pull out my drive cards. I'd be like, hey, real quick, like, look at these 5 cards. You pick the one that's like most like you, right? And they'd pick the one and I'd be like, oh, you're an executive. All right, you want proof? Hey, you want to come see a flip we're doing right now? Like, come see a flip we're doing. Or if you're working on getting your first flip, go to one of my flips, right? Hey, look, I got this guy on my team. His name's Mitch. Like, Mitch and Maeli, they're crushing it. They're team members of mine. Like, we're going to go see one of their flips, and I'll show you exactly how we do what we do on our team. And so, or director, it's like, hey, dude, like, don't you want to retire rich? Don't you, like, if they pick the director card, like, don't you want more out of retirement than, like, retiring on a quarter of what you actually earn now and having to lower your lifestyle? Let's change that, right? Okay. Perfect conversation start. Intellectual,
Okay. Yeah, because I work with a lot of very successful CEOs and physicians and healthcare workers, and I'm surrounded by lots of money. And so them seeing me in one light and convincing them to invest with me, I have found that, I guess, comfort level and I guess confidence, because I'm great about saving your life and doing a flip and all these things, but when I'm intimidated by who they are because they're
by status.
In healthcare, the nurse doesn't tell the doctor what to do. I guess I just get to be more comfortable in that conversation.
Yes. That's mindset, right? Okay. It's just crap you're telling yourself. Dude, my dentist is an equity partner, and he's been an equity partner on multiple deals. And you should have seen it. Like, I was in the chair at the thing, and I'm like, hey, you want to invest in real estate? kind of thing. It was totally like, and yet, it was a doctor, it was someone I was talking to. So you got to get over it. And that takes practice, and it takes but really you're the only person getting in your way there. It's just your own thoughts that are interfering with what you know you need to do. And you
Well, I
just
think that you and I need to have a
delete them.
conversation to get some conversations with my peeps.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
And
what
I see you shaking your finger at me because I know what you're shaking your finger at me.
Maeli.
well, and that's what I was gonna say is sometimes, and actually we know this, and I know you know this, Jennifer, but it's better to have a third party validation. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. It's just how it works. And so if you're in one position and now all of a sudden you're trying to put on another hat, sometimes that does overcomplicate the whole scenario, right? It just can. And so I mean, this is why Mitch and I do different things, right? He's in charge of all raising capital. I will definitely say, hey, so and so's interested. And then I just toss and set, right? And then he spikes because I absolutely shouldn't be placed on that hat. There's no reason for me to. I can create leads, I can generate those leads all day long. And that's obviously what you're really good at because you're in the know and you're constantly doing that. And so maybe, yeah, setting up a scenario where you and Mitch are just having these conversations with other people where you're on the call and be like, hey, let me introduce you to Mitch. We're doing these cool things together because credibility does go a long way. And
It
that's
does.
part
Yeah.
of being a part of our team like you are. Like, it makes
Yeah.
all the difference in the world when we be like, oh, yeah, we've done 250 deals. We've
Yeah.
done 1,000 plus deals, technically. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To my measly less than 50, compared to 500.
Even then,
Those speak
But-
volumes, though, when you are seen as the nurse and the chaplain, and they know that I do real estate investing and I do mortgages, but they don't know that we do real estate and
Yeah.
mortgages, right?
But here's the thing, Jennifer. You've done 50 deals. Like what? I mean, a plastic surgeon who may make $800 to $1.2 million a year and have 7 figures in his savings account. How many deals has he done?
None, probably,
zero.
or maybe he owns an investment property or something like
Maybe,
that, right?
Maybe, right? But you've done 50. That's significant. So also, it's what you're putting.
I
in
know.
there, right?
Yeah, I know.
But no,
Yeah.
I am happy to have to be a part of those conversations with you and with any of you. That's why we're here. That's why Maeli and I are here. We want to help. So so yes, absolutely. But also remember, it's mindset.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Thank you.
The credibility that you have, we all tend to diminish and minimize our personal credibility. Like, who am I? Right? It comes back to this human condition of we are, I think everybody has a certain level of imposter syndrome. Everybody has a certain level of, we just like self-loathing, like we just think worse of ourselves than everybody else does, right? And so we got to stop that, right? We all have to get over it. Not just you, not just me, because I have to too. Not just Maeli.
Sure.
All of us have to get over that. Think about this. Just with the classes that are in essentials, you know more than every real estate agent, real estate broker, most accountants, most attorneys, a lot of credit experts, most financial advisors. Like, you know more than every one of those people simply as a Renata student who's gone through their essentials education.
Yeah,
right?
It's true.
That's credibility. And yet,
that's true.
every day I see people like, I don't know, I haven't done 4,000 deals yet, so I'm not, it's like,
Well,
so,
and especially in Utah and with Renatus, we have such a wealth of knowledge of experts and so many people who are so successful that I feel like people go, oh, and hold themselves small a little bit because we have that comparison syndrome and the compartmentalizing ourselves with other people. And we should just own our success. And whether we've done one deal or a million deals, we did one deal. And celebrate our successes. So thank you for that.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. No, comparison, it kills, right? I mean, it's okay to admire someone and to look up to them and to aspire to be like them, or to aspire to similar accomplishments as them. But to compare yourself, there's always missing data, right? You can never know someone's complete story. And so, I mean, you guys don't even know mine and Maeli's complete story because we like to bring out, just like everyone else, we like to bring out the best, and we talk about the best more than we talk about the worst because we're sometimes embarrassed about the struggles that we're having, right? So, and that's everybody. So you never know someone's complete story. All you can base it on is your personal accomplishments, removing the negative. We all need to speak more positively to ourselves in our own minds.
Yeah.
And so focus on the positive. What have I done? Not what haven't I done. What have I done? What's my story? Like, who are the people that I've learned from? I mean, think about it. Mark Kohler, Chris Wilson, Chris Albin. Like, think about the accolades that just, Matt Sorensen, like just the people that the accolades that the people you've learned from have, right? That by itself is credibility. The deals you've done, the number of leads you've generated this week, like, how many deals you've done. Oh, dude, like, I'll tell you, I've been in the weeds this week. Like, I have talked to over 50 homeowners today alone. It's nuts, right? Like, you can redirect the conversation to the credibility you actually have. So we just need to, speak positively and remember that, a lot of the stuff that we know and that we take for granted now inside this little culture that we have is, if we were to look outside, is, so much more powerful than what most people have access to. So all of us, speak positively yourselves. Remember that. But I love that. Yes, Jennifer, absolutely. Let me know. Happy to jump on a call with you whenever you need. All right. Judy says, what advice do you have for new people that are not part of our community and would love to do this? Become part of the community. That's it. You got to get educated, right? The only way that you can present yourself as an educated investor is by being educated. And you can't BS your way through this. I mean, people who are smart enough to have made lots of money that you want them to give you to go out and do real estate, they're smart enough to cut through your BS. And so unless you can speak from an educated standpoint, you actually are generating deals and you're knowing how to analyze them, and you can actually show that to somebody who knows less than you. And in some cases, like Jennifer pointed out, maybe people who are higher status than you, but don't know as much as you do about what you're talking about. You are the expert. So Judy, the key is, as maybe obvious as this answer sounds, those people need to get educated, and the best place I know how to do that is right here. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to call. Maeli and I had a cutoff at 8 o'clock, and I've gone 15 minutes over. So thank you all for attending today. I hope you got some incredible value out of that. Like Maeli, I'm going to bring Maeli back out so that she can share some of the announcements, and then I'll let her go ahead and wrap up the call. But guys, thank you for attending today. I hope that was valuable for you. Maeli, time's yours.
No, seriously, everyone, right? Like, Mitch is so amazing. This is why he does this. It's like, we just need to like stoke up all of his yumminess because it really is so great, and we are so grateful to have him. I mean, I am a part of a lot of other like just Facebook groups and all over Facebook and all those things, and they're constantly talking about just fluff. They're constantly saying, "Oh, you could do this, or you could do that," but at the end of the day, it's like, how? Give me the actual like verbiage, And so I do encourage you, as soon as this call is done, right, within a minute, it's back on YouTube. You can go back and re-listen to Mitch's verbiage and how he says things, and pay attention to the tonality and his just conviction of exactly what he knows what he's doing. You can borrow other people's success, and especially because you're a part of our team, or you're about to be if you're new to us, right? Like, because you can borrow our success and you can borrow our failures. And I will say to this, Jennifer, you had said, well, I just, right? And sometimes, right, you've done 50 deals, but it's still hard to talk to other people, right? It just is. Like, and no matter how you say it, it's like, I don't feel like I'm the expert. Okay, well, what are you the expert? Like Mitch said, redirect the conversation. I love that because, right, I'm a master of redirection.
Control the conversation. Yeah.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it's simply just recognizing what is your, no matter what your conversation is, what is your intention? Think about that, all of you. At any moment throughout the day, when you're having a conversation, whether it's online, whether it's through a text message, whether it's a phone call or an email, what is your intention? Because that's what people are going to feel. They're going to feel like, oh, I'm a spaz and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm just like, oh. But if your intention is, I am here to talk to you about this deal that I'm doing and only this deal, and I am an expert, own your confidence, own your credibility, and own this group because we are freaking badass, right? Like we're crushing life, and you can always invite them to this call. So if they're out of state or whatever's going on, and or you can send them a video. So in the past, we've done this equity blend. Don't you think this call could be an incredible value to someone that you're about to go do real estate investing with? Mitch went over safety nets. He went over exit strategies. He went over worst case scenarios and best case scenarios. Those are all super valuable. Be like, dude, watch this. This is my team. This is what we're doing. Right? Like, it can be something that you can leverage. So feel free to obviously share this video and or just memorize it or whatever you're gonna do, tweak those notes. But it does work, and I just kind of toss it to Mitch. So you could do the same, right? Yeah, Mitch, you figure it out. Because that's what he loves to do anyway. So that is my advice. Partner up with him and figure out something that makes sense. And then I will end a couple of things. So we do have a book for women specifically. I'm sorry, men. This round isn't for you, but we will be doing his empire here soon. But we do have a book that we are doing together as a collab. This is an incredible opportunity to join forces with us. I said Jennifer had already joined us, and I'm so excited. But basically, the book is called Creating Her Empire. And if you are a #1 best-selling author, don't you think that gives you some credibility immediately? Instead of handing somebody a business card, you're like, oh, here's my book. That's dope, right? And you can get on so many TV shows, so many podcasts, just because you're a #1 best-selling author. People will now all of a sudden, oh, you right? Same with back to, well, why would I invest with you? I'm a #1 best-selling author. That's cool. Like 90% of the people won't even read it. It doesn't matter. And if they do, it's still going to be amazing because I know all of you have incredible stories. So Kimberly, Mary, Judy, I'm looking at you. I don't see anyone else that's on here right now, but I'm looking at you. And it would be so fun to have you a part of our book. So if I didn't send you an invite, let me know and I'll send you it. And the ability to be a part of the book, there's going to be 25 of us, and we all get to choose just one chapter. So instead of having to pay, like I looked at publishing my own book recently, and it was going to cost me $35,000. And it's a lot of work. I don't know if you've tried to write an entire book before, but it's a lot of freaking work. And so, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, but it's so much work, and just be able to write one chapter, have them help us write the chapter so we feel comfortable about it, and then us share our story. And the story is just simply something you've learned, right? Something you want to inspire other women so that they can go do something really amazing too, right? That's it. So it's 25 women sharing their stories of triumph. That's the topic. So you get to pick what it is. It's going to be really amazing. So I hope you can join us. We have 7 ladies that joined us as of today. So we have a few more, obviously, spots open. And anyway, I would love to have you. If you want more information, just let me know. Okay? Okay, that's all I have. And thank you, Mitch. Oh, you're so amazing. We're so grateful, right? Yes, we're so grateful for all of your insight. So awesome. And tomorrow night, if you want to dive into more of that conversation at the mastermind, we can definitely do that too. Because although I'm not the expert, I've listened to a lot of his phone calls. So I could probably give you some insight. Okay, love you guys. Good night.